Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Face the Music. Man, I am super excited to be back. Now, for those of you who follow my channel for a long time, you know that I've had this channel now for about 3 or 4 years, something like that. And I've done a ton of music reaction videos, done a ton of shorts, especially in the last year. I've been super busy with a lot of other stuff, so I haven't really, kept on top of doing long form videos like I'm starting with today again. But super excited to be back in the saddle. You know, it's kind of like riding a bike. I'm sitting down. This is the first time I've actually done one of these videos in months and months. It's kind of like riding a bike. You know how to ride a bike, but if you haven't ridden one in a long time, you're just kind of like, wow, it takes you a couple of seconds to get your legs underneath you, try to get your balance right, But you know what? It's going to work out. Before we get started, again, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, subscribe, like the channel. And then, if you like the video, put some comments in there. I'm going to tell you right now, and I've said this before in a lot of my other videos, I read each and every comment that comes through, whether it's good or bad, negative, positive, whatever. I try to read every single one of them. If I've ever missed any, I try not to because I do have notifications on, so I get notified whenever there's a new comment on there. But anyways, so do me a favor, just subscribe. Right now, I'm about 9,500 some subscribers, somewhere in there. So I'd like to get up to 10,000. You're helping me getting there would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, let's get this show on the road. So, I've thought a lot over the last few months about who my favorite artist is, who my favorite band is of all time. Now, I guess you could probably separate them into groups. You could say, well, you have like your artist, your solo artist, then you have like your band, and which one. So I don't know. I really don't know that I've really thought about whether or not I prefer a solo artist over a band in terms of an overall. Who's my favorite musician? Who's my favorite, performers, whatever. But when it comes to bands, when it comes to anything other than just a solo artist, I have to say the Eagles themselves are my favorite band. Now, my father-in-law unfortunately passed away a number of years ago. His favorite band was the Eagles. And when I grew up, I was alive. I was born in 1970, so I was alive during their heyday. But I will tell you that, I really didn't know much about the Eagles, didn't really pay much attention to them, especially as I got older into my teen years. You heard songs like Take It to the Limit. You heard Lying Eyes on the AM radio, right? And when I got older, that's when I started really paying more attention to them. And I really wasn't into that kind of music. I was like, okay, whatever, because this would have been like in the early 80s. New Wave was coming out. You had groups like Wham, and I'm going to be doing some Wham stuff here, by the way. But you had groups like Wham, you had like, you name it. You had all those, Duran Duran, you had all those groups at that point. And of course, you get on into 82, yeah, Michael Jackson was big with Thriller. In the 1983, Men at Work, all these other bands. And so I really didn't pay any attention to the Eagles. Now at my age, in 2026, and I'm 55 going on 56 in a couple of months, man, the Eagles are just fantastic. And I'm going back through their old catalog, their back catalog now, and going, man, they had some fantastic stuff. Now, let me say this. They started off with like their debut album, and it was pretty good. Nothing spectacular, not bad, had some really good stuff. And I've got a few albums that I brought up. I don't have all their albums. Sorry to step out of the camera for a second. But then their second album was kind of odd, kind of weird, because Desperado, great song, by the way, Desperado. We all know that one. If you're an Eagles fan, you know all about it. But, this album, pretty good album if you're into country and western. If you're into like the western cowboy theme, and then you have picture on the back. This is when they did the photo shoot for the album. You had the Eagles, you had J.D. Souther, Jackson Brown was part of this, I think. So not a bad album, but just kind of it was a departure really from where they were at when they started to that second album. And so the first two were there. And then I think this is where they really took off when they hit their third album, On the Border. Okay, On the Border. Great stuff on here. Of course, songs like Already Gone, You Never Cry Like a Lover, one of Don Henley's contributions to the album. Midnight Flyer, Randy Meisner on lead vocals, My Man. And I'm going to be doing an episode on My Man, that song specifically and what it means, and some other stuff by Bernie Ledden. Great stuff on here. And so if you have this album, if you're an Eagles fan, you have this album or you've heard this entire album, hopefully you agree with me that this is probably, to me, and I will say this, I think it's either between this album and Hotel California. That's my favorite, but I think I'm leaning more toward On the Border, their third album, as being the best. Now, some good stuff, and we're going to be talking about this song right here, Good Day in Hell. And it's not as sacrilegious as it may sound. Songs talking about something totally different. But you had songs like Already Gone and Good Day in Hell. Now, a lot of people may assume, now my favorite, let me just jump in here real quick and just preempt myself on this comment. I really, when the Eagles started off, you had Don Henley, Glenn Frey, Bernie Ledden, and Randy Meisner. Those were the four Eagles. And then album number three came along, and they wanted someone to play and contribute something different guitar wise to some of their songs. So they enlisted the help of Don Felder, who was a good friend of Bernie Ledden, to play lead guitar on Already Gone, and then, of course, slide guitar on the song that we're going to be talking about today, Good Day in Hell. And a lot of people may mistakenly assume, now, if you're an Eagles fan, you already know this, but a lot of people may mistakenly assume that Don Felder didn't join the Eagles and didn't really contribute anything to them until the fourth album, which would have been Hotel California. Because when you look on YouTube and you see some of the live concerts, a lot of reactors, they look, and that's the concert a lot of them will use, is maybe they'll look at Take It to the Limit with Randy Meisner from that concert, 1977. They'll look at Hotel California, same concert. But what a lot of people may not realize is that Don Felder actually had played on album number three and contributed some great stuff. And so I think my favorite lineup of the Eagles, of course, you had your original four that I just mentioned. When Don Felder joined, then that was just fantastic. And of course, then later on you had when Bernie Ledden exited the band, then you had Joe Walsh come along. Later on, when Randy Meisner left, Timothy B. Schmidt, and so you had like some different configurations of the band. But I think probably my favorite iteration of the band was even prior to Joe Walsh. It was when you still had Bernie Ledden, you had Don Felder after he joined, you had Henley, Meisner, and Glenn Frey. I mean, just great. So what I've done for this particular episode is I pulled up Don Kirshner's rock concert. I think it was 1974. You can find the entire thing on YouTube. It's absolutely fantastic. They had Linda Ronstadt guest star on there. They did Old 55. They did Silver Threads, Golden Needles. Then they had Jackson Browne come on there. I mean, it was a great concert if you look at the entire thing in its entirety. But this song, Good Day in Hell, and I chose this specifically. I could just do maybe I could just play the song, and if you're not familiar with it, you could be like, wow, pretty good song from the album version. But I will say this, for one thing, it's really hard. It was hard before for me to get any Eagles stuff out there because the Eagles really clamped down, especially Don Henley. From what I understand, he was really big on stopping people from being able to publish anything about the Eagles. In fact, that 1977 concert was the only thing that I knew that was fairly easy for me to even publish anything about the Eagles without it getting blocked video-wise. So we're going to see how this works out. Hopefully this works out. But, again, Don Felder, when he joined the Eagles, he hadn't even joined the Eagles yet, when he played on Already Gone. And then on this song, Good Day in Hell, they called him the next day, I believe it was, and they said, hey, you're in if you want to be in. They really wanted an extra guitar player, someone who was going to bring something different to the table, a little bit harder edge than just what they had been doing up to that point, which was a lot softer stuff. And Bernie Ledden, I think, kind of was more along the lines of wanted to keep it a little bit more mellow, more soft. Nothing wrong with that. But I think Don Felder brought that kind of the grittier edge to the band that I think they were looking for. And so anyways, we're going to see this, and I wanted to show this because this kind of brings you back all the way to where the band was back at that time. And I want people to be able to see what it looked like to have all those four original members plus Don Felder playing on this particular song. Now, going forward, just to preempt myself again, on this part, I'm going to be doing, an episode here shortly on Hotel California, the Eagles, some things that maybe people do or do not know. If you're a big fan of the Eagles, you probably know a lot of things about them, and I feel like I do as well. But I want to share a lot of that with people who a lot of times you kind of maybe, or if you're a passing fan, you hear songs, you see faces, you don't recognize them, or you don't realize what went on in certain areas. So anyways, going to be bringing that to you along with some other stuff. And again, talking about the song My Man off of this album, On the Border. Interesting story behind it and who it's affiliated with. And so I think you're going to really appreciate that. So again, let me just encourage you, if you haven't already, subscribe, like the channel. But let's just go ahead and get into this. This is going to be, like I say, Good Day in Hell is going to be their performance of this on the Don Kirshner Rock Concert TV show. So I hope you enjoy it because it's one of my favorite songs of the Eagles. And again, you see that I'm kind of rusty here. I don't even have my headphones ready to go. Plugged in. There you go. Again, good stuff. Hope you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get into it. So there you got Don Felder playing the slide just like he did when auditioned for him. led there on the other side of Don Felder, Don Henley. Interesting. And of course, Glenn Fry, totally different look than 80 years.
Devil's on the phone. He laughs and says you're doing just fine. Let's pick the names. I wanna go down in flames. Seeing's how I'm going down. Oh well, it's been a good day in hell. Tomorrow I'll be glory bound.
It can't be denied that the Eagles were some of the best musicians at the the best instrumental players at their craft. I mean, really, honestly. So you've got Glenn Fry jamming with Don Felder, Bernadette on the other side. Just fantastic. Randy Meisner in the back. And this was 3 years, 74, 3 years before that famous concert that you see all over YouTube. A lot of people react to. I think the Eagles made a big mistake when they got rid of Don Felder. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's a story for another time unless you know it. They're a band that they don't really move around a lot. They're kind of more stationary, but a lot of artists I might be like, yeah, I wish you guys would be a little more energetic. But I don't mind it with these guys. The music is so good. And like I say, this is the song that brought Don Felder in. That to me, I mean, I'm just saying that right now. That is such a great song. That's such a great lick, and for Don Felder to be asked to join the Eagles because of his ability to play the slide guitar so well on that song, I mean, that's just fantastic. So, like I said, just something that a lot of people may not realize, that it wasn't Don Felder's first time with the Eagles when he was playing on Hotel California's that album. It was actually album number 3. And the Eagles didn't really have a long history of albums. I think it was they had Hotel California, then it was a number of years, and I'm trying to remember exactly like how many years it was between. I think they came out with Hotel California in '77. I think it was another 3 years before they did The Long Run, which was their next album, and then that was their like kind of split apart album, because that album, if you listen to any of their autobiographies or read anything about them, that was the album that just kind of like that kind of tore them apart, really. I mean, it just took them a long time to get what was going on behind the scenes, outside of the recording studio was just crazy. And we can get into that another time. But then after that, it was 14 years before they came out with think it was 14 years. Yeah, 1994 after that. And 1980 was when I think they released Long Run. Then it was the MTV special in 1994, Hell Freezes Over, when they released, that concert. You can see that also on YouTube. Excuse me. And then I think their next album after that, I want to say, was Long Road Out of Eden. And I believe, I mean, don't quote me on this year, I believe it was 2007, but it was in the early 2000s, I believe. And that's a fantastic album. Let me just say this: that's actually one of their better albums. I think it was a double album. Just a great. It had some great songs on there, including a song. And if we ever do it, I ever do anything from that album, then I'll mention this again at that point on that episode. But including a song called was it somebody? Not somebody. It was there was a song. Oh, hang on. Let me take a look at this. Long Road Out of Eden songs. Let me see. There was one that they used to do all the time back in the very early days, and then they never even put it on an album until this particular album. So going to track listing, it's called How Long. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. That was from J.D. Souther. He wrote that. How Long. You can look on YouTube. You can see some songs or some episodes where they actually did this song. Way early on. You can see like some early footage of it. It's fantastic. But then they included it on that album, and then since then, of course, they've had like multiples, farewell tours, whatever, and yada yada yada. And of course, we all know that unfortunately Glenn Fry's passed along by now. So right now, as far as I know, I think it's just and Randy Meisner's passed along. So you've got Bernie Ledden still alive, but not with the band, of course, and Don Henley. Joe Walsh is still playing with them, and then Timothy B. Schmidt's still playing with them. And so, anyways, again, Eagles, one of my favorite band, or my favorite artist, my favorite band. I will say that unequivocally right now. Some other great artists out there, some great bands, some great musicians, whatever. But I'm going to say right now, the Eagles, my favorite. Who is your favorite? Who would you say would be your band if you had a go-to band or go-to artist? Maybe make it a single, musician if you want to, but put it down in the comment section. As I said before, I read all the comments. I'm interested in seeing what you guys have to say. Anyways, we'll cut it short right there. Got some other stuff to get ready for some other episodes. Again, hope you enjoyed that. I love that song. I think it's just a fantastic song. Great vibe, great sound. Again, do me a favor. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Join the channel, join this big family. All we try to do around here is just keep all this great music alive. And I'm going to get some other stuff ready to go. And I will see you next time right here on Face the Music. Take care.